Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just setting up here in Houston, downtown, with my signs and see if anybody stops by. So I don't plan on kind of giving a message or anything like that. You know, at least in the beginning. I have my Bible. I'm just kind of sort of just seeing if people are interested in talking. I can't live stream because YouTube, I don't have over 1K subs, but I'll upload these recordings. on Main Street in Dallas. You know, I'm gonna kind of move around Houston, but I'll probably start downtown because I live around here, and then I'll probably go to Rice, my alma mater, and U of H possibly. See if people have you really even heard of the flat Earth, and that might segue into the Bible. Didn't really factor the wind. have to bring something heavy to hold the stand down. Probably come out for like an hour or two every day. In the very least, I think people see me regularly. They may think of something and then maybe want to ask, if they see me again. So I'm just kind of reading on my own through Revelation. Revelation 1:7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him. Which to me alludes to reincarnation, if people have an ear to hear. And they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. This proves that there's very, very few people who are looking forward to God's return, much less think that will actually happen. So I definitely don't come out here thinking that I'm spreading some kind of good news that people are going to get excited to talk about. I'm very aware of this. To some extent, this is me sort of reaffirming what I already know. But, you never know. You could meet somebody and learn something new, and all that from both directions. So that's good, but this is not good news for a majority of the world. We're people who even prophesy it. It's a scary thought, even for us, that this is actually going to happen in our lifetime, and the things in Revelation are actually going to manifest. So it doesn't hurt to come out. I got some little cards too that I made for people if they want a link to my channel, in case they don't have time to talk or whatever. So that's the plan. People out there are familiar with Houston, Texas. Very kind of evangelical, very Baptist. A majority of people, no matter what they look like, will be offended just from me mentioning that Jesus is dark skinned. Not even that he's a so-called Negro or anything like that, which to me requires a spirit to affirm that. But that alone would be offensive to pretty much everybody. Much less, the other things that I believe and I would say know to be true, like flat earth and Mystery Babylon and all that kind of stuff. So that alone will offend a majority of the people that come by, because that's certainly not taught in their churches. So we might be able to connect with like a couple people and find somebody who God has already revealed this to, or is open to it. Jesus being dark-skinned puts the end times focused in America. If he's not, if his people are multiracial, which they will look like all the other nations, no doubt, but if he is just kind of a generic God, the end times, to me, becomes a bit more dubious, you know, where it is and when it is. But if he is dark-skinned the way the Bible states, either implicitly or explicitly, indirectly or directly, it's another arrow, literally, towards America, if it's not already obvious with all the other verses. This is where the epicenter of the deliverance will be. So we have a rail system here in Houston. It's not that it's definitely not like New York City. Obviously, it's above ground, and it's kind of hot here, so it's not the most sort of utilized thing. And I'm not even exactly sure how it makes money, because they don't really check and see if anybody has a ticket. But that's what you hear going by. And downtown, I would say, when I used to live here years ago, was kind of dead, but there's a lot more traffic now, you know, even after work hours, but it's pretty dead relative to like a major US city. But I think I'll just kind of start downtown. The Hebrews usually, they were here actually on this street corner back in the day. They moved a little bit down, but they're not far. I think it'll be more interesting if I am close to Rice and I can get some students and talk about flat Earth. Houston being, you know, very much one of the major hubs of NASA. And I'm sure NASA is involved in some funding at Rice, research projects, internships, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just not sure where I will situate myself, because the campus is within these hedges. They actually call graduation from Rice moving outside of the hedges, and so it's kind of closed off, and I do not think they will allow me on campus, even though I'm an alumni, with this type of a message. But I might be able to find a spot around the outside, so I might go there once in a while. Talk gravity. So just reading on in Revelation, I, John, who also am your brother and companion in tribulation and in the kingdom and patience of Jesus Christ, was in the isle that is called Patmos, for the word of God and for the testimony of Jesus Christ. So he's basically saying, in many ways, because it's in Revelation, prophesying tribulation. People are going through all types of tribulation around the world. It's not a big mystery. So people who are waiting for even discussing a post or pre-tribulation rapture, to me, are out of their mind. The world is in tribulation. You know, it's again, we're living in hell, and everything is essentially normalized. What we go through is normal, but that's not the case. You know, it's only normal relative to the system that we're in, and the Bible says we're in a beast system. No one would argue that. So this is tribulation. You know, again, people have more or less, but for that many people, I think I saw a stat on Zero Hedge, like 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know how much more tribulation a person could be. It could be that coupled with like abuse, but that's basically unlivable for anybody. Animals would live better than that. So to say that the world is not in tribulation right now, to me, is somebody who has no idea what's going on. or is serving some other purpose. You know, it's obviously tribulation, and now I believe we're coming up on a time in human history where it's going to start getting more chaotic in like larger events and groups, and so it's going to be economic distress, famines, all that kind of stuff. And so if Americans are right on the edge, living paycheck to paycheck, and we're the quote richest nation in the world, I mean, I don't know how people cannot say that this is the tribulation period. There is no pre or post tribulation rapture. It would have happened already if it was pre-tribulation, because we're in tribulation. So I believe Revelation 18 and really the entire Bible supports a pre-plague rapture. Hopefully my signs are easy to read. I made them black and white. Didn't put any colors on them or anything. I may need to get some stones to kind of hold the foundations down. I didn't realize even a little bit of wind could move them around, but lesson learned. But yeah, I mean, the system has enslaved everybody successfully. And to me, it's actually the most obvious at the top. People will look to the poor and all that for enslavement, but I actually look at the leadership and the CEOs as the most enslaved. And you know, they're losing their jobs just as frequently as everybody else. And so if the enslavement is happening at that level, even though a lot of them would already have enough money to live off of, potentially for many generations, they're still enslaved because they have to do certain things. People are waiting for them to fail so they could fire them and replace them. It's very political. It's just the way the world is. And so the enslavement to me is actually more obvious at the top. And it's been at the bottom throughout human history, but now it's growing in number. And then to me, it's very, very obvious. And so once the poor get to a certain critical mass and only God decides what that is, to me, the Bible, the God of the Bible will speak, because his eyes are focused on the poor. But it just shows that even the quote rich are enslaved, maybe not financially. It's just crazy to think that really everybody, the majority of these people walking by, think that we're moving. The sound quality on these might be horrible, so I apologize. I'm gonna actually go back home and listen to it and see if it even makes sense to upload them, if there's just too much like noise, wind noise and all that. So it's a very low-tech setup I have here, but for me, again, it's just kind of useful to see how many people first, to some extent, have the courage to even just ask a question if they have one, or just even one step back from that, even bother reading the signs as they walk by. And that's why I actually don't kind of look at them, because I want them to just, if they want to read the sign, to not think that I'm like staring them down. You know, they don't have any obligation to, and all that. So I think these kind of things, and credit to the Hebrews, even though I disagree with obviously the fact that they're ball earthers, but the more consistency I suspect that I have, and in the location, I think, you know, people who work downtown will probably see me more than once. And you know, if they know that it's a Bible-based motive to be out here, you know, they may come by and chat. I think I'll probably stay here for the first week or two. So for people who ever see this, you know, I'm on Main and Dallas, downtown Houston, right across from Forever 21, which I just saw an article today that They filed for bankruptcy. And you can even see all the signs on it, you know, sale-a-thon, everything's on sale. I never understood how a store this big, I'll just flip the camera, I never understood how a store that big could function downtown Houston just with not that much foot traffic. But, you know, it's a private company. I was looking at its stock price and all that, but it's not listed, so you know, I'm not sure what exactly triggered it behind the scenes, but that's a big store. You know, it's two levels, and I can't remember. I think they have like 30,000 employees. So I don't know what they're going to use to fill that big space. You know, that's a pretty big footprint in downtown Houston, and I would think the only thing that could go there besides another store would be some kind of athletic thing, you know, like a gym or something. But the tough thing about that is YMCA is just down the street, so I'm not sure. Even just looking at it right now, there's not that many people inside. And the few times that I've been in there with like my cousin and stuff, like there's not that many people in there. I was watching Ranty's live stream earlier. I think it was a recording from a day or two ago. And Toady was on there, you know, and I think that it's good. I think definitely there's a tipping point for a lot of people where we're kind of certain that it's flat, and looks like the ballers are, you know, they're finding looming ridiculous. And so credit to Toady, whether he was acting or whatever, playing along. He was kind of, you know, acknowledging that the ball earth math is falling apart in many observations. We're not spinning. There's no way. That's insane. I would actually say that probably is the main motivation for me to be out here, is not just the flat earth, which again I think now is obvious, but is the fact that we're not moving. And if that's the case, pretty much everything falls apart for everybody, honestly. Not to like over dramatize it, but that's a pretty big fact that is now false. And so to me it affirms Joshua, what happened, that situation is possible in Joshua 10, and then gives credence to Joshua, the Lord, that book of Joshua, the Old Testament, the entire Bible, beginning to end. And so that's really why I'm here. These buildings are not moving at all. For those few people out there in it for the end time stuff, for me it's very simple. I'm not going to really make this complicated or I don't think there's any reason really to actually go deep into the Bible and the authenticity of it and all that kind of stuff. To me, you know, we can. I'm definitely not an expert in that, but I would say the fact that we're not spinning invokes God, and immediately, because why would they lie about it first and foremost, and then what is our reality if we're not spinning? And then so then we might start thinking, you know, yeah, we're not. You know, just it's self-evident. And then the fact that sodomy comes from the Bible, and it's something that the God of the Bible apparently hates. And so if he hates it that much, what's he thinking about what's going on in the world right now, and certainly here in America? So it's not that complicated to me. Those two things are sort of, they're obviously linked, because it would be the God of the Bible behind the deception, and then God of the Bible expressing his hatred towards you know, homosexuality, really all sexual sins, but just that one is kind of the more obvious one. And and then one would think there would be a judgment proportional to the amount that lifestyle has prospered. And so here we are. To me, there's absolutely no way that America would exist, even just financially. Forget about no Bible or nothing, just with the current financial setup, it would not last longer than a few more years. I think a few people could survive here, the ones who have a lot of money, but there's too many people who are poor. And I think there's also a growing number of people who are bored. I think whichever one of those, and they're probably both related as well. Because if you're poor, then you're likely not working, and or you're working way too much and you're just exhausted. And so poor people and bored people are, in my opinion, growing in number every day. And also, when you have a lot of poor people, homelessness will increase, and you see that here in Houston. That's why there's a lot of, like, you may see some security people walk up and down with like white outfits, badges. They're literally just patrolling downtown and keeping homeless people kind of in little pockets. And so they're the ones who I'm kind of most, not that I'm nervous or I care about anybody's opinion these days, but those are the people that I'm most kind of concerned about, whether they have a problem with me standing here. Everybody else, they just walk by and ignore. But you'll notice that there's quite a few of them, more than I would have remembered, than I remembered years ago. We got a guy down here taking a picture of maybe his wife or girlfriend, like 40 different angles, different shots. So this is the world that we're in. Everything to me revolves around entertaining mindless women. Hey, what's up, man? I think next time I might just stand with one sign instead of having all of them out. Especially if it's windy, because then I can at least hold the sign. It's an amazing journey, that we're on. I would never have thought, remembering the way I was when I was a young kid, that I would be like standing out here genuinely believing that missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, will be shot from one end of Earth to come here and destroy a place that I have now been living in since 2004, almost nonstop. So, and that I would now know that the Earth that we're standing on is just suspended in the middle of free space, which should be obvious, but never thought about it once. It's crazy. And on top of that, it would be controversial to even discuss it as a reality. The way I kind of see things, and people know a little bit about my channel, my personality. I feel like life, probably this is the way I was throughout my whole life, has been kind of like a test bed for, testing out things, experimenting, and all that. And to me, it's no different now. This to me is like a form of an experiment where I'm going to come out here and learn something either way. I'm going to learn about the fact that people don't care that much about God, which I kind of already know. Because to be totally honest, I barely do most times. Or, to what extent, the fervor is. And it's a good thing to do. I remember working at Amazon, they would describe our first day there as day one. Every day is day one. So this is day one. For TMOG, out on the streets. I used to do this years ago, before I knew about Flat Earth, but I would just kind of hand out little gospel tracts, but this is the first time sort of static. But the Bezos philosophy, the Satanist that he very clearly is, just every time I see him, I just kind of picture Satan with his eye that's half shut and stuff like that. And he always talks about every day is day one. And then he also says another philosophy that he talks about is failing quickly. So he talks about how to do things, do projects, take initiatives, test them out, tease them out, and try and get them to fail quickly. And to me, in many ways, that's sort of a good approach for life, is to take ideas, thoughts, all that, and test them out. And if they fail, they fail. And that's just to me a good philosophy to apply spiritually. The thing is, if the Bible's not true, to me it will be found out quickly. That's what I would say is the luxury for anybody out there who is even slightly inclined to the Bible or end times. It's not hard. It's not difficult to sort of understand that it will be discovered whether it's true or not relatively quickly. Because like I said, if America stands, if there's no famines, if there's never really any food shortages, if it's never burned with fire, then, the Bible's not true. And it would be not true mainly because the God of it would be inconsistent. He would hate a place in history, and then it's very, very obvious to all of us, the religious and non-religious, that there is a place that fits those characteristics and magnified over a broader scale, has more influence on the world, way more influence than Sodom and Gomorrah. I would say infinitely more influence than tiny little Sodom and Gomorrah. And so, he would have exercised a judgment on that place, but not on this place, to me, is inconsistent. And enough for me to reject the Bible, and I would recommend other people do the same. But the flat stationary earth is good reason to pull up a seat and see what he's about to do. I think in many ways that's a good way to sort of describe our entire life. Now that I believe that we live on flat stationary earth, it's like we're literally in a movie, literally. And now many of us know that we're actually characters in a movie. So God is essentially giving us a front row seat, even though we're not static, we're not sitting, we're moving around, but we essentially have a front row seat now into the things that he's doing. It's not that we're better than people who are not sitting at the front, because we're all actors, but we're just at the front. We know what's at the end of the movie, and we're just waiting for it. And we're waiting for, most importantly, what's after it. For all you people in Houston, come by. If you're ever in Houston, I'll try and stay in the same spot for, a continuous amount of time, so I'm not jumping around. I'll probably announce it actually just every week, just in case people are bored, and want to come by and chat. Help me kill time before, in my opinion, God kills time. It even said in Revelation that the sun and the moon will not be necessary in the kingdom of heaven. So that in and of itself is proof that time will be destroyed, the concept of time. And when that's gone, there will be no decay. People won't know what yesterday, today, and tomorrow is, and so there will be infinite time, or no time, which is the same thing. Okay. So I'm actually standing in front of like some different office, like commercial lots, and they're all vacant, and looks like now Forever 21 is going to be vacant. So there's quite a few empty commercial real estate spots, and to me that's that's a sign of the times. If the economy was blooming, blossom, flourishing, like we're told in the mainstream corporate media, these stores would not be closing down. Like it just would, no one would put a store in the middle of downtown Houston that would be closing down. They would put something there useful to the people that are in that area and service a need. So if a group of people don't have money, resources to buy stuff that they don't need, which would be in a place like Forever 21, they may still shop there, but just get less and treat things as a nice to have, then stores close down. It's just what it is. I gotta keep an eye on my signs here. Just gonna move a bit closer. So I'll probably do this for a couple hours every day. Play some golf once in a while. I didn't get a response from Ravi Zacharias Ministries. It's probably obvious that I wouldn't, but I didn't get a response from them about their position on Mystery Babylon. Not a huge surprise, obviously. Those type of ministries are all non-profits. I actually went to one of his founders meetings, his yearly meetings, because I was in a relationship with somebody that used to work there, and she invited me there, and got a glimpse of the people that support him. And this is not at all to be racist, but you look out and it's just a sea of like 70-year-old white families, and they're not going to fund and finance an organization that will teach that all the prophets, Apostle Paul, Solomon, every these heroes of the faith are dark skinned. That's not gonna fly, much less all the other stuff. So he didn't they didn't reply. His spokeswoman didn't reply to my point on Mystery Babylon or the fact that Jesus is dark skinned. So it's incredible to think there was a time when I met him that he was somebody that would be close to God, sharing truths. It's incredible. amazing what 4 or 5, beliefs, which I would say now for me I believe are true and largely self-evident, can do. What we can do with those truths to filter out people and all that kind of stuff. So it's not difficult for me now to acknowledge that first we're in a movie and there's a lot of actors, and he's just another one. He just is pandering to his group and sharing half truths at best. The flat Earth truth would destroy Christian apologetics overnight. It would be an unnecessary field. So Ravi and others, his mentor was a guy named Norman Geisler who passed away recently. I've met him as well. And those people who've written all these books about the existence of God, if God, why evil, Jesus among other gods and all that, it would be unnecessary, because the flat Earth implies God's existence, and then we'd have to start looking for religions who have texts that support a flat stationary Earth with a revolving sun and moon, and so there's not many out there. So it would, all that industry is gone overnight. I don't know. It's amazing the Bible calls it Mystery Babylon. It's, I would say for me, it's probably the most compelling. Not compelling, but to me, it's the most it's almost as self-evident as the non-spinning Earth. An economic system like this cannot survive. It just, by definition, it cannot, because it's too decoupled and too far away from a person's basic needs. Housing, some form of shelter, food, and the basics. It's so far removed from that. All these corporations, even if you just look at downtown Houston and just look down, what's big here in Houston is NASA, oil and gas, medical stuff, and let's say, just down here, if you would just walk down here, Houston, there'll be hotels and stuff, and it's like, the hotels are not, obviously they serve some function, but they're not necessary. NASA is absolutely not necessary if you're a flat earther. It's in fact satanic and producing fake images and stuff. Oil and gas does serve some purpose, legitimate, and the medical industry is largely evil and designed to keep a person dependent on it, and so it's not meant to be a voice for healing and a healthy life and all that kind of stuff, because there'd be a lot more doctors speaking of work-life balance and all that kind of stuff. So to me, the end times is implicit in the exact, or just in the entire system itself. The sodomy and all that kind of stuff is just icing on the cake in many ways, because the financial system itself is designed to fail because it cannot service this many people with the corporations that exist right now. And I'm including the government and schools and all that as part of those corporations, and religion. Nice day out today, though. Can't complain. Nice breeze. Might have to do some engineering on my signs so they're a little bit more stable. We'll see. Might have to poke some holes in the bottom and run a rod through. We'll see. Kind of sucks I can't live stream this. I don't have 1,000 subs, and I highly doubt that I will. So live streaming is disabled. I'm not even sure if I can do it off StreamYard either, on my phone. I'll try and play with that, but for now these are just recorded and then possibly uploaded after. Wherever you find people who value the law in the Bible, those are God's people. You know, it's we can call them Israelites, you can call them elect, or whatever you want. If you read Revelation 18, it says, "Come out of her, my people," and right after it states that, it talks about sin. Literally, if you read Revelation 18:4, and it says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins." So right away, when God is talking and addressing his people, he's going to get the attention of people who understand that they're sinners and they're sinning. And that's just, and I'm not saying this in any kind of boastful way, that's just not very many people. This society teaches us to cover up all of our sins. Don't admit that you're whatever. Don't be vulnerable. Don't say you did something wrong or evil. Lie. I went to jury duty just down the street here. Who knows what that guy did to that child? And he's sitting there with a lawyer who's trying to get him off. And the judge, in and of itself, that whole system is evil. First of all, it's a female who's a judge. But then also, God's not involved. God knew what happened. If anything happened, God is nowhere to be found. But God references his people in Revelation 18. That's why a lot of the Hebrews will not bring it out, the Baal Earthers especially, because Revelation 18 addresses God's people. In Revelation 18:4, "Come out of her, my people," and then it talks about sin, and then it talks about plagues. It talks about sin, and then it talks about the judgment. And I will freely acknowledge that I'm in sin. I have been throughout my whole life, and I do not see it changing. I can minimize it, and I'm attempting to do that. And I would say these kind of moments are good for me, which is why I do this. It's only for myself. In the very least, it'll keep me in the 2 hours of doing something that is not completely degenerate. Even if I'm just standing here and talking to myself. But my point was, God's people and sin go hand in hand, because wherever God is, the Israelites are God's people. There's the law. There's a desire to keep the law. There's an acknowledgement that we cannot perfectly, only Jesus Christ can, the dark-skinned Messiah, and then those are God's people. People who don't care about the law are lawless. It's just what it is. And a lot of them are in leadership. And that's not even their fault either, because they were programmed to be that way. It's not a human thing to be lawless. Normal humans are designed to be compassionate, to be aware of their surroundings, to be faithful, to know that we're not here randomly, and all that. We have a certain level of common sense, common grace, common wisdom, but there are systems and structures in place that have robbed us of that, and Baal Earth is one major one. And religion, as an organization, as a corporation, is one as well. And those have worked together. But that's changing. Flat Earth to me is, of all the quote truths that I have, it's the most precious, and because it's the most obvious, and it's at this point right now, it's the most powerful. We're absolutely not spinning. That's preposterous. scholars always talk about wherever there's movement, there's a force. Wherever there's acceleration, there's a force. So now they need to then explain to us this force that is causing the Earth to spin and orbit and move, and who provided that force? That's why the Bible describes God as a power, as the most high power. And he provided, the energy, the fuel, however you describe it, the force for everybody to move. No one goes anywhere without God fueling it, the most high power. The Bible says that a bird won't even drop one level in altitude from the sky unless God ordains it. And he has all the hairs on everybody's head numbered. So no one's going anywhere, without God authoring it and allowing it. And that's scary for people, even religious people, even people like myself, to acknowledge that's true. Because our world speaks completely against that. That it's like F God, F the Bible, we're our own person. Do as you will, all that kind of stuff. That's the mindset that we've been fed throughout our whole life. When Flat Earth now humbles all of us, if it's received well, to recognize that we're just characters in a movie. And we didn't set up the stage, we didn't set up the characters, we didn't set up the script, we're just characters. We're just asking God, the few of us that are aware of this, when will it end? And we want another role where he's with us. I'll read that actually in Revelation 22 that I went through this past weekend. Great chapter, very last one in the whole Bible. And there shall be no curse. This is Revelation 22:3. And there shall be no more curse. No coincidence again that it's Revelation 22:3 for those numerology people. 22 times 3 is 66, and that the first sentence it talks about a curse. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. So there is a time where we're all serving this beast system. I'm out of it. I'll be totally honest, as much as I can get out of this system, but we still have to serve it slightly. Even these security people coming by, to some extent, I'm still at the mercy of them. If they tell me to leave or whatever, I'll leave. So we're all sort of still at the mercy of the system, but I would advise people out there to not take this place seriously. I'm not saying this in any kind of arrogant way, but the people that are, quote, brilliant on this earth are, they may be brilliant, but they're not going to teach us anything. And the people who have power and wealth and all that kind of stuff, they're not going to share it. And all there is left is to be a slave. So it's funny, I literally said that the security will, we're still subject to them, and there's a guy across the street who's reading all my signs. So it's the only people that care are either people who are against the Bible or people who are in charge of keeping this place, quote, orderly. But to me, that's kind of a Bible proof in and of itself. He's coming by, so we'll see if he stops by. But it's kind of a Bible proof in and of itself, because if anybody's sharing anything else on the street, no one would care. I think to me the strongest evidence is just the requirement to sin. I think that's unavoidable. So all those street preachers out there, the ETT, the Hebrews and all that kind of stuff, That's why they don't break down Revelation 18, because it first of all, it's addressing God's people directly, which I believe would have to be flat earthers, people who are virgin birthers, and the list goes on. And they don't want to acknowledge the obvious fact that we're required to sin every single day here, all across flat earth. It's just what it is. That doesn't mean go and slump over and do more sin, more. It's, in fact, just for me personally, it's just to acknowledge it, which took a little bit of time to recognize that literally every ounce of energy that I was putting forward was to support a completely satanic system, and in some cases even like shill for it and defend it. And that's not a good use of anybody's energy, because that's against the Bible, the God of the Bible. I think it's also just kind of interesting when you look at, if you read the Bible and the Gospels and you see the kind of people that make up a lot of the interactions with Jesus, it's not, we don't get to see a lot of the people who probably came up to him and asked him deeper questions, like, why are we here? And that's what I have on one of my signs. Why are we here? Why is there evil? And all these more sort of philosophical questions. And we see people who are against him, and this has to be by design, that there are things that we were not privy to, and we were only supposed to sort of know that there was a lot of just pure resistance, and people that came to either get healing from him or call him out as being evil. And it's no different today. I just, even just from the ball earth, flat earth debate, you can see that the people that are most interested in videos related to truth are people who are opposing it, and they're the ones who are the more fervent. And it's no different now than it was thousands of years ago. The only way that Jesus Christ and any pure entity can die that way is if God orchestrated it, because a normal person would not care. A normal person would just be like, whatever, just leave him alone. He's not saying anything negative or whatever. Just he flipped over the money changers, but that's not enough to get somebody killed just doing that one thing. So you can get an obvious sense that he was it was orchestrated by the Most High. So we have a guy across the street who is just taking a drink out of the fountain, and now he's riding on a bike, a stationary bike that's meant to be rented out. So this is America. That song by Childish Gambino, "This Is America." But it was kind of funny watching this guy who's still on this bike across the street. He's literally like, getting on his belly and then trying to take a sip of this fountain water, which God knows where that water is coming from. It could just be wastewater, who knows, but recycled water. But to me, in many ways, like, to sort of spiritualize that, I think this is really what I'm doing, and a lot of people are doing, is that we are that thirsty, that we are that desperate for living water, that Jesus promises to those that have an ear to hear the things that he's saying. And we will make a fool of ourselves for that water, not this dirty, disgusting water that most people have to drink here. Flint, Michigan, and all that kind of stuff is an extreme example. The basic needs of large groups of people are not being met everywhere, and it's also becoming obvious here in America. But that level of desperation and lack of care, of being embarrassed publicly to receive this living water is it's an incredible thing. So we have people on the left-hand side who will lay down to drink dirty water, but the analogy for us would be we will kneel down for spiritually living water. Hey, how are you? It's a good one in Revelation 3, verse 3. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So everything about Jesus' return is, it's to some extent, he sometimes seems like he's sending us mixed messages. He says there's going to be some ambiguity because even he doesn't know the day or hour, but then he also says to be aware of the signs, that the end is near. And then what I just read in Revelation is that, again, reaffirms some element of ambiguity, that he'll come as a thief, unexpected. And so to me, the only way that I could think of a time period that would suit that, all those verses combined, is in the near future. That's just my thinking. I don't know how it's possible if things got worse. I'm talking about everywhere around the world, but certainly here in America, because if things get worse here in America with all these quote Bible Belt Christians, Bible believing Christians, everybody's going to be crying out to God. Everybody's going to be expecting God, because the God's favorite place, America, I'm saying that sarcastically, will be in trouble. And so people will then now freely acknowledge that the government is just working on behalf of central bankers, which are working on behalf of God. And to me, then, it wouldn't be a mystery. It wouldn't be like him coming as a thief, because everybody would just be expecting it. Whether he's coming for them or not, it won't be as a thief in the night. It'll be very obvious. So to me, there needs to be sort of a relative calm time when the UFOs will appear. So people like end times teachers and the Hebrews and all that, who teach that there's going to be calamity, there's going to be the mark of the beast being forced and all that kind of stuff, to me go against the words of Jesus. And it doesn't surprise me, because they very rarely bring out things that Jesus says and incorporate that into their end times theology. But Jesus, to me, made it very, very clear that it will be a time that will still be very, very unexpected. So for me personally, I think that it could literally happen, any day. And then that to me will be the kickoff of the end times. It will be official at that point. Then once God's elect, whoever those people are, Revelation 18 calls them my people. Once they're taken out and excused, then things will start getting real crazy. And I would recommend people to petition God to, if we're in that life, if that happens in our life, to I don't want any part of that. I don't even want any part of this right now. So it's very easy for me to ask to be a part of that group, but it doesn't hurt to ask, with God. And God affirms that in many verses in the Bible, that petitioning him for things is a good idea.
Can we do it at 5 o'clock? No, I'm in Houston.
it's this is basically my new job. I guess this is like day one. You know, I was actually thinking about that yesterday when I was golfing, and I didn't manage to throw any clubs or get angry, which was a huge accomplishment for me. Even though I shot 45 on the front nine, but shot 39 on the back, which is also kind of interesting. When I kind of give up on the front nine, it was so bad. I ended up playing well on the back because I didn't really have very high expectations. But I was kind of thinking during that day, thinking yesterday about how this is sort of my new job. It's kind of like day one, and how different it feels than all the other jobs that I've had in the past, and the ones recently where I've loathed starting, and there's just no direction. There's no really all the jobs that I've had, but certainly the last 3 or 4, you just sit there and then you just have to make up something to do. You have to like pretend like you're happy first and foremost, and do whatever your boss says, even if it's stupid, and or don't do things if he wants that. And there's no guidance. It's essentially you just sit there and wait until you fail, and then they'll move you out. And that churn gives the managers job security. And so I just don't even know how to operate in an environment where I sit there and I don't know what to do. I don't think that it's useful at all. It's just like sitting there filling in a bunch of spreadsheets that no one really uses or cares about. And I just very practically, I don't know how to kill that much time and be intellectually stifled. And you know, back when I started the role that I'm kind of about to leave now, it's I would literally just watch Oakley's debate. That would be like my morning routine. I would just sort of show up slightly late, watch Oakley's in the morning, and then that would get me through the morning, and then the afternoon would just be whatever I could do to kill time. You know, just literally whatever. Like sometimes I would literally just go to the driving range, which was not far from my office. I might come up with different techniques. I may not just do this all the time. Like I said, I have those cards. I may just walk around and hand them out about my channel, and then also I think on it says search for flat earth proofs, and search YouTube for flat earth proofs, and I can show you guys just a little card. Kind of like a sort of like a gospel track, I guess. So it just says, do you know the earth is flat? Thought experiment: if earth is a ball and water sticks to it by gravity, how do birds and airplanes take off against such a strong force? Also, have you ever seen water curve? Now we know that gravity is not actually a force, according to the Baller scholars, which is insane. And then I said many other flat earth proofs and experiments. Search YouTube for flat earth, and then I say flip the card to the other side. And then I talk about we are living in the end times. Shortly, the governments worldwide will force people to implant an RFID chip in order to access money, in order to be able to buy and sell, according to Revelation 13, 16, 18. And I said my personal end times video / commentary. See how long that channel survives. And so it's like just a two-sided thing. And then I got a box of like maybe 500 of them or something. So I'll just walk around and see if people want to take them. They'll probably think that it's some kind of coupon or something for, you know, some restaurant or whatever, but you never know. You know, like one person is bored or sees something about flat earth somewhere else because it's kind of more like out in the mainstream, even if it's being made fun of. You never know, maybe they'll take a look. Or to me, even more importantly, is consider that the mark of the beast is not far from being forced. Which I don't believe that God's closest will be on earth during that time. Because again, it just doesn't make sense. Because if that is ever forced, the time frame from when it's forced to how long a person can survive in that kind of a regime is very, very few, like few days. It's not like years, for sure. So everything now, with the way the world is financially, everybody's on the edge. Like no one has a buffer. Not large groups of people don't have a buffer of like 3, 6, 9 months, a year and stuff like that, much less 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So to me, that's why everything will every shock to the system, certainly an appearance of UFOs is a major shock to the system. Even if people are not taken away, even if literally just 5,000 UFOs appeared in the sky and then they went away, that would be enough to cause all the system to collapse, because no one would know what they are. And for spiritual people, we know that even if I didn't have the Bible, I'd be like, where are you guys going? Like I would want to know. I would want to go where those guys are, because again, it can't be worse than it is here, because this is hell. This is where purity was crucified on the cross. So whatever is in those spacecrafts, wherever they're able to go, cannot be worse than it is here. And so I would ask them, like, hey, where are you going? But pretty much my point was, what I was saying is everything will lead to, every little blip in the screen will lead to a disproportionate amount of chaos, because people don't have resources to live longer than, at best, like a month or two. And that's like a large percentage of people. It's not like 5%. If it was 5% of the people, it wouldn't make a difference. So I think that's why something like the mark of the beast or famines or anything like major like that, the time frame from when those start, or definitely when they're fully in bloom, blossoming, from that point to a righteous person being here on earth is like on the order of a few days, a month or two at the most. So to me, it's a bit cosmetic. Why would God, like looking at this from God's vantage point, why would he require his people closest to him go through that when they're essentially just first of all already sinning to live right now, but go through even more of it? It doesn't make sense when it's obvious that they're in the end times at that point. To me, anybody who talks about sin but does not acknowledge that, first of all, we're always supposed to call ourselves the worst sinner, but also doesn't acknowledge that we are required to sin here, is not speaking on behalf of God, because that's obvious. That's obvious, for everybody, like non-religious people. So people who open the Bible and only consistently point out other people's sins, to me, I would ignore anybody like that. I'm talking about now or even in the afterlife, because all this clarity of thinking, all this truth, to me is, I believe, will carry on, and God will use it in some way. So refining our thinking now and avoiding false doctrine here will help us in the afterlife, and then keep other things away from us. And so that will always be true. If anybody is not humble enough to acknowledge their own sin and realize that should always be the focus and the elephant in the room. Other people's sins, to me, are also, we have to call it out, but we have to be very clear about our own. I was reading Forever 21's bankruptcy thing, and not a single mention of just how Americans are shopping and spending less. They're just more in debt, which is obvious. And to me, that kind of coordinated stupidity is spiritual. So all these seals, I'm just kind of going through Revelation, all these like seals, trumpets, vials, and all that kind of stuff. We have to think, if we're the God of this whole thing, he's not going to make the earth unlivable, completely unlivable. You know, it's like he has to keep it somewhat normal, or else, I mean, no one would be able to do anything. So if people actually think that all these like seals and trumpets and all that are like going to be released in the future and then all that, it's like, what's the point? You know, it's like, if they're happening the way that people think, like literally fireballs, you know, one after the other, you know, and locusts coming and just, you know, devouring people, that's insane. You know, that's not anything except just a prison for people to just get devoured, which whatever plague that God is sending out. So it doesn't make sense. It's going to be slightly more organic than that. Is what my point is. That all this tribulation is tribulation. All the stuff that's going on in Venezuela, all the uproars in China, all the enslavement, all the people working in the factories, the people's hours getting cut, people barely able to like pay their bills. This is the tribulation. We're living in it. So the only people that don't want us to say that this is tribulation are people that are set up by the government, because they're the people that want this thing to continue, because it's supporting a few people's lives here on earth to continue on. And the Bible says that there are groups of people that think that they will live forever. Like their inward thought is literally that they're going to live forever, and they want that. So these people that are out there essentially upholding the system by saying that what we're experiencing right now is normal and not tribulation, to me are government shills. Even if they don't know that they're shilling for the government, they are. And this is tribulation. You know, everybody's going through a different amount, but we've been lied to about our reality. That's a pretty big ding right off the bat. Everybody's enslaved. Some people are not even fortunate enough to be enslaved because they don't even have a job. And it's just, I mean, I don't know what else can happen, because we're literally on the edge, you know, the financial edge, moral edge, technical edge, everything, you know, scientific edge. Like everybody's just on the edge. And so if what people think if people think the end times is just God like unleashing fireballs one after the other and then locusts and then all that, it's like, that's not the end times. That's just a very quick cleanup. And no one will even know or care, because it'll be so quick and abrupt and people won't even know why it's happening, you know. And so that to me is ridiculous and would make no sense. It would be such an abrupt ending that, to me, spiritual people should know that we're living in tribulation. So by definition, everything is technically post-tribulation. So there is no notion really of a pre or post tribulation rapture, is because there'll always be tribulation. It's just going to increase. So the tribulation's here, but there will be, in my opinion, based on Revelation 18 and you know, the words right out of Jesus' mouth in Matthew, there will be a pre-plague rapture. So God's people will not experience plagues. There will be a group who will be fortunate enough to not taste death, famine, mourning, or America being destroyed. Which will show you that America is the epicenter of the book of Revelation. So the rapture will be in tribulation, and then it will be a pre-plague. And then after that, it's God turning up the temperature. And then people will know at that point that God exists, if they don't already. And then there will be an hour, like a time where the earth will be tested with the mark of the beast being forced. And some people are excused from that. There's a good verse in Revelation 22:17. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it. So it appears that from the Bible there will be new names and designations given in the kingdom. Revelation 3:10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwelleth upon the earth. And so this is a letter to the angel of the church at Philadelphia. And in verse 8 it says, I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwelleth upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. So Jesus is describing here through John the Revelator a time where these lucky souls, lucky individuals will be able to access Jesus directly in this New Jerusalem, which cometh down from heaven. So to me it's alluding to a group that will be excused from this quote-unquote hour of temptation. Yeah, so it's It's in the Bible. It makes sense. I don't know. I think it's definitely an interesting time that we live in. The flat Earth essentially being proven to be true, but left vague enough for where it's gives atheists a reason to still be an atheist, and the mark of the beast still able to be the mark of the beast. If the flat Earth came out and was proven to be true with a video that everybody could share and discuss, the end times I don't think could play out the way that it's prophesied. It still would be evil, but it would be much harder for it to succeed. Because first of all, no one would believe the government. So whatever stupid story that they feed people, in my opinion, it's going to be the UFOs, quote, taking people away. No one's going to believe them if they're saying that the Earth is a ball when it's proven that it's not. So it's going to keep remaining to be neon-colored glasses and Flat Earth International Conference. It's going to stay like that. Let's do a test and see if the flat Earth side will attract more people. So I'll just give you guys a vantage point of my little humble signs. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, so probably do this like maybe 2 hours a day. I think the walking around idea is a good idea too, just to get exercise. So I may do that once in a while. To kind of get up and walk around. We live on a big stage. A really big stage. Posted a video recently about these hypersonic weapons. So they're going at multiples of the speed of sound, and it's crazy to think that the technology exists on Earth right now, where a weapon can be shot from Russia and reach here in 20 minutes. And they could be telling us half truths. It could be faster. I highly doubt that it's slower. We don't know a lot, about technology that God is teaching people. And the Bible says that God is a God of war. That's obvious. He's the author of good and evil. So he's putting this information in people's brains. They think that they're discovering it themselves. They don't even know why they're developing it. But that's a pretty big conspiracy to believe that either that these news stories are not real, that these weapons are fake, but it's also, that's to me a conspiracy in and of itself for those people who go down that road. And it's another conspiracy to believe that they're real, but they're never going to be used. Why would somebody develop them if they're just going to sit there? It doesn't make sense. And why would they do it and use it against us when we haven't done anything to anybody as Americans? I'm talking from an earthly perspective. The only reason that they would ever be developed and then used is if God did it. funny. This feels like kind of like a science fair. Growing up, I don't know if people here in America, but in Canada we had these like stupid science fairs, and just go through, causal question, hypothesis, ironically independent, dependent variables, results, conclusion, all the stuff that the ballers ignore when they're attempting to prove to us that we live on a spinning ball. But you're just kind of sitting by your poster and waiting for somebody to come and ask questions about the experiment and stuff, and so it kind of feels like that. Different set of results, than what I was sharing in high school. High school is such a scam. Like, just thinking about those science experiments, like, we were given extra credit for doing those when the reality is that kind of stuff should be a core part of our curriculum, and it wasn't. That was going above and beyond, was to do a science experiment following the scientific method. When the reality is that should be like a core part of our curriculum, to do those and do them regularly and rigorously. I don't, sorry man. You know the earth is flat? Good. So the whole education system's a joke. That's pretty obvious. Oh man. Not a lot to do on flat earth. I'm actually very thankful that I've come to realize this, because I feel like the people who are quote not bored or entertained are being entertained by things that I find completely degenerate. So I actually don't, I'm trying to not complain that much, because really I don't know anything better that I should be doing. So it kind of makes it kind of palatable, knowing the few things that I know about the goings on of flat earth. It makes not being envious easy. Again, I don't say this on any kind of spiritual high horse, but there's nothing to be envious about. For those people out there who are flat earthers, don't be envious. What's there to be envious about? I'm only, quote, jealous of the God who made this earth. That's it. And he welcomes that. That's a form of worship. I'm like, how does he do that? How does he make something out of nowhere, nothing, and then plop it here in the middle of three space, and then start injecting humans onto it? That's I don't even know what to say. I'm jealous of that, and that's it. I was trying to think of a flat earth test using GPS. I think that's also another thing that I could give myself a mini project to post on my channel. Basically take some of those ideas that I was bouncing around earlier and make a concrete test, and then actually go to the level of seeing how much it would cost to rent the equipment. Not do it, because I don't think I'll be able to, but put it on my channel. I think it's kind of sad, but the reality, I think the reality is as Forever 21 and all these other stores start closing, it affects obviously the hourly workers who work there, corporate as well, people with quote office jobs, and it's kind of sad, but the reality is as more layoffs start happening, and anybody who follows financial news, everybody's saying that there's an earnings recession. So earnings are going to start dropping because people are spending less, and more layoffs in order to remain profitable. And to me, I think then people will start, in many ways, having to like think about life and death. And I think that's a good thing. You know, if there's a silver lining in anything, you know, to the evils that are going on in the world, it's that we start realizing that we're not going to live forever in these bodies. And for many of us, that's a good thing. Kind of thinking of doing some different experiments too, like dressing differently, like kind of dressing like you know, like just completely raggedy, and then also dressing up in like a suit, like a jacket, and seeing if that makes a difference with like who stops by. But I doubt I'll get that ambitious, but I would actually be kind of interested to know the results. I have a feeling the Hebrews, a lot of them don't take it seriously strictly by the way they're presenting themselves, because we are conditioned to, and in many ways for good reason, to be afraid, you know, of people who are dark skinned, and this is around the whole world, not just here in America. So like, you know, I was kind of curious how people's perception of like a kind of nerdy looking Indian guy may change depending on what I wear, but to me, these are all stumbling blocks that God has set up. You know, there's truth out there in different pockets. The Hebrews, I would say, in many ways, own the fact that America is Mystery Babylon, because that is the place that they're crying out to be rescued from. I've heard it from other people and learned the foundation of it from other people, most notably Louis Farrakhan and Russian Vids. But that truth is, to me, hidden with them, and then Flat Earth is hidden with Russian Vids. Eric Dubé, Oakley, and O'Reilly, and all those people. And Mark of the Beast is kind of mainstream now, I would say. There's no real one owner, and it's definitely not the Hebrews, because none of them were teaching that until GMS failed on their year 2000 prophecy. And so Mark of the Beast has kind of been with everybody, you know, in little pockets, but it's on Zero Hedge now, which is like a pretty mainstream financial news website. So it's out there. I would say largely people kind of know what they know. A lot of this, what I'm doing, is just largely out of boredom, but then also just to, you know, have conversations with people and, you know, see what's going on in their life, and if anybody wants to chat, you know, is just bored, they can come by and talk to me if they want. But I think for the most part, people kind of know what they know, and that seems pretty clear to me. The Hebrews aren't giving up on their baller. I'll probably stay for another 15 minutes, been a couple hours. I think next time I might just stand with the Flat Earth sign, because I got to figure out how to make these signs a little bit more stable. It's not even windy today, and they're still kind of blowing around. But with if I just hold the sign, I might be able to move around a bit and go to different locations. And in many ways, the Flat Earth is kind of more provocative, and people may have thought about it, which I hope is the case. And then for us, people like me who've been in a lot of those debates and follow that every day, sometimes too much, I would be shocked if there's an argument that I haven't heard yet. But that's the part where I would actually really like to hear the everyday person, just the average sort of lay person, defend Ball Earth. And so there's an element where I'm, curious to know what people are using to attach themselves to Ball Earth, and then it'd be interesting to know. I would say very, very few people on Earth right now have any real kind of in-depth understanding of objects being obstructed bottom up, and how that is one of the main arguments for Ball Earth, and I would say probably the strongest, and to me one of the two or few that are remaining. So to me it's very, very obvious and easy to debunk it, because I'll literally just ask people if they literally think that these buildings are moving. Like, there's a lot of high rises here in Houston. I mean, you can just take a look. I mean, it's just building after building. I mean, I would just literally want people to just look at the building together and be like, tell me that you really think that this building is moving right now. Come on. Moving where? This will sound a bit sort of unpopular, but it's my genuine belief. I think homeless people can only exist because there's a lack of faith from people at the top not helping them, and then people who remain homeless, there's an element of a lack of faith. I do not recommend anybody roughing it. It doesn't make sense. There's no reason to do that. It's evil enough in the comfort of our own houses and apartments, much less out here, sleeping, laying around out here. God exists. It's just what it is. He's not going to be upset if people want to return to him, and he's not going to be angry. He's going to wonder what took us so long. But it's not just their fault. I definitely will not throw people who are homeless under the bus, because it's a beast system, that's very, very obvious and orchestrated, coordinated. So a lot of people are homeless because of the system that we live in.
Big guy.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
Good, how are you? I don't know who that person was. Yeah, so if I was homeless, learning about flat Earth would be literally like me getting my penalty purged, expunged, removed. So I would be, God exists, and I'd be out of here. I definitely don't look down on them at all. I'm pretty sure I probably did at some point in my life. Like, what are they doing? Aren't they bored or whatever? Like, they just kind of like walking around. But flat Earth has humbled me to the point where, I was basically doing the same. I was walking around being lied to. So it's better to be doing nothing, in my opinion, than being lied to. And then sometimes even paying for it. So, there's nothing dishonorable in the day-to-day, because really everybody's a slave. And so I'm not speaking along those terms, like they're not doing anything productive or anything like that. I'm thinking literally from a safety perspective, like who knows what can happen out here, again, we're living in a Babylon, which I believe is modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, and all the perverse spirits are out here. And if you're sleeping outside, I don't even want to know what could happen. It can happen to us in our own homes, much less just sleeping on the side of the road. So I do not recommend that for anybody. It's not worth it. There's no point. Bible says in Revelation chapter 18, verse 2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. And devil, deceiver, all that. I mean, look at our corporate media. They're lying about everything. It's obvious. They know that they're lying. It's uncomfortable for them. You can actually, when you read body language well, you know that those people who are on those news shows, Steve Leisman or whatever, they all know that they're lying. And there's devils everywhere, you know, and there's devils within the church and religion. So every foul and unclean and hateful bird is here, according to the Bible. Which is also proof that America is Mystery Babylon. Deception also doesn't always have to be active too. That's something to think about. Like, it's not always people that are actively deceiving, even people who are not questioning things, going along with it and all that. That's a necessary part of deception. And so some people, I would say, genuinely don't know that the earth is flat and they just have never thought about it. But there are other people who, when you ask them and press them, they'll admit that these buildings are not spinning, but then they will just continue on being ball earthers and not think about it. So there are people who their brains are literally not allowed to absorb truth. So I'm going to call it at that today. Just had literally like 2 people just say hello. Not a bad first day on the job, you know. Doesn't pay well. I get a big office though. It's I can pretty much park myself anywhere that these Freemason security people will let me. So I got a good view. I get to make my own hours. And I have a much better boss now. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.